My parents, my dad is Evan W. Jolley. He was raised in Tropic, Utah, which is under the rim of Bryce Canyon. He passed away 13 years ago, and I was his only boy. There were 6 kids, and I'm the only boy. And so I was involved with my dad most of my life till he died. I grew up with him teaching me most of what's been the center of my life. And then my mom is Janine Bauer Jolley, and she grew up here in Cedar and has basically lived here her whole life. She's still with us. She's in her 80s, and she's been a great influence in my life also. The biggest thing that both of them taught me was just the love of the gospel, love of life, love of education, love of hard work. My dad had health problems for 40 years of my life, and just was a great example that you keep plugging along till it's your time and you're called home. If you know of Homestead State Park, there's a house there that sold his house in Cedar. That was my grandpa's mom's house. Well, you know, I've been a dad now more years than I wasn't, and my dad was such a great influence on me that I always wanted to be a dad. Holly and I have been blessed. We have 6 kids, 4 boys and 2 girls, no grandkids, but just my dad, like I said, was such a good example of my mom that I knew I wanted to be a dad, and it's just always kept me doing what I should, wanting to be a good example to them like my dad was to me. Well, my professional life's a little different. I was born into a family that had a retail store and a small farm, and so from the beginning that's what we did, and it was an opportunity for me to always be around my dad, something I looked forward to, and people knew me as Letterwood vouched that wherever my dad was, I was. So I knew I wanted to be we had sheep, we had cows, we had a small alfalfa farm, and even up to my mission, I was kind of torn if I was going to go into the business or do the farm, and over the course of my mission I realized the store was going to be the better, so I come home and studied business. Was able to study here at SUSC, which is now SUU, and get a business degree, and then move into the store, and my dad let me kind of take it over and run it, and that was my life. 3-4 years ago it was obvious that because of the business climate and that things were slowing down, and it was probably time to do something new, and it really didn't scare me. I had a patriarchal blessing that warned me years ago that I would not do that my whole life. So I was fortunate, felt very fortunate to get out the way we did and get out clean, and then COVID hit, so it was probably good timing, and feel blessed that way. Over a year and a half ago, it was time to, after I'd cleaned up and got that all cleaned up, it was time to start another job, and I'd always felt pretty confident I'd be able to find a job. I had all my experience that I'd been able to privileged to serve with a lot of committees, business committees, and just felt I had a resume and put in for a job. It's called Western Ag Credit, and I've been with them over a year and a half, well, a year plus now. And it's right up my alley because it's dealing with farmers and ranchers that I dealt with so long at my business. Feel very pleased to have this job. I'm very pleased to do what I've done in life. I've always been able to have adequate for my family, and I was promised as long as I worked decent and honestly that had happened. So I kind of had 2 careers. It was kind of an interesting at age 50 plus to have to start a second career, but I appreciate both of them and glad with what I've done. So, but it's always been business oriented with some agriculture included in that. Well, faith journey for me has been since I was little, because I was raised in an active LDS family. My mom's family were pioneers and pioneers of this town. And my dad, his family is pioneers too. My Jolley side has been an interesting and always a very strong one to me. They actually were pioneers out of France into England hundreds of years ago, and then came from England to the States and settled in North Carolina in the 1600s, but always moving in the name of religion, and then moved into Tennessee in the early 1800s and were actually baptized and become part of the Nauvoo experience. There's, I think, a 4th great grandma that she has a testimony in the Jolley book that she's sitting outside Nauvoo watching it burn, and her husband's died, and she just got a couple of her sons who become the founders of the Jolleys here in Utah. But in her journal, she puts, "I do it again," because we were able to go through the temple. So that's always been a faith builder for me. I have all that history, but I have to live the gospel, because as we know, you can have all that history, but you can fall away. But to me, it's a history that pushes me to just know this is the right gospel. And I don't know, everyday experiences to me continue to be examples to me why God exists. When I get up in the morning, when I've been able to go out and feed animals and watch the sun come up and the sun settle, and the country we live in here, to me, is just an example. You know, there has to be a God, or this world wouldn't function the way it does, or at least the Mother Nature part of it. I felt blessed to serve in the same mission as you, Paris, France. Kind of a unique mission, very unique, but it was good for me. Everybody's mission is their mission, and it's different. My dad served in California, and we talked. His was very different. Now had 3 kids serve, and you know, when we compare, it's a different experience for all of us, but it's a faith-building experience. I've been called to nursery twice, primary twice, but I learned to love those jobs. I love them a lot. You know, I'm facilities management or whatever now with Brother Feiss, and it's become a fun calling. Got to meet the ward when they come and clean, and it's not that hard when you got Brother Feiss. Marrying Holly, marrying right. And I knew that. I knew I needed to marry right so that I'd always have somebody that would have the same goals in the church. That was important to me. Serving a mission was a fort. Having kids was a fort. You know, I saw that question, I thought, and I don't know, because I think things are learned when they need to be learned, if that makes sense. Like having to leave a career of 30, 40 years, there's things there that I knew how to do that before wouldn't have meant anything to me. And it would have made me sick to think I'd have to leave a business that I was second generation, had third generation coming in, but you know, things come along that just said, you know, that's insignificant, move on. You're still alive and still got your testimony. Hopefully he's a good dad, good son, good husband, good friend, good worker, like I was taught. I have 2 horses that I enjoy. Yard work I enjoy, gardening. Another thing about animals is that, you know, the creatures of God, and you see it, the life in them, to me, it's another testimony. I'm a beef eater. Steak and potatoes guy, that's just how I was raised. You know, Cedar City, more importantly, Cedar Mountain. I love nature. 1 Nephi 3:7. It was my missionary scripture. I will go and do what the Lord commands. There is a green hill far away. That's always been one of my favorite ones. Not just because it's short, but just the meaning of it.
I think the first time I noticed Steve was I was working at Cedar Breaks, and he showed up with his girlfriend and her little brother, and I just thought that was really nice. I didn't really know him well, I just knew his family. I just thought that was really, really kind, and that he must love the outdoors to go to Cedar Breaks, so that couldn't be bad. Also just knew that he had a quiet confidence about him. Just made me feel safe and protected. Another thing that attracted me was his work ethic. He was has always been very hardworking. And to see his kindness, and that's very evident in his care of animals and his family. He's very diligent, taking care of his mom and dad until his dad died, and my parents, taking care of their yard and their snow and everything. I don't think a lot of people would know many of the positions he's had. He's had a lot of things in the community. He was Chamber of Commerce president, lots of committees with the city, redevelopment projects, parking authority. He was the chairman of that for a long time. And lots of church callings. I think he loves primary and nursery because he was Elders Quorum president and on High Council and Young Men's president and scout leader and I don't know what else, lots of other callings. So he did love primary nursery. He's still very, very reserved, But if he has something to say, then you know that it's probably important.